Fourth story of the day is about Chuck Schumer at AIPAC, which is American Israeli Political Action Committee. They have a conference every year, and he was bashing Donald Trump. So I got his exact quote here. I wrote it down. Chuck Schumer at AIPAC said, "When someone says that being Jewish and supporting Israel means you are not loyal to America, we must call it out. When someone looks at a neo-Nazi rally and sees some very fine people among its company, we must call it out." So that was a shot at President Trump, saying that he looked at the Charlottesville neo-Nazi rally and said, those are great people. This has been debunked numerous times. If you want to go further, you can go to Scott Adams' Twitter, who's the writer, creator of Dilbert. He's also a political analyst. He mapped out exactly how that's not really true. Trump said there's bad people on both sides, which is true. You had awful leftists and you had awful right-wing bigots. What Trump was trying to say is, the whole rally was trying to tear down a statue, and I don't want them to tear down statues. I don't care if it's a left-wing racist, sexist, a left-wing normal person, a right-wing bigot, or neo-Nazi, or whoever. No one should be tearing down historical statues. That's not how history works. This is not 1984 where you tear down statues. So the point Trump was trying to make was like, there's bad people on both sides, very true. He condemned white supremacists and neo-Nazis like 10,000 times. He condemned everyone under the sun. He said it a billion times, but what he was trying to say was like, I don't get why they're tearing down the statues though. He was like, there were actually legitimate people there who didn't want them to tear down the statue, including black people as well. There's a black Confederate guy, I have it on my other page, where he was explaining why he supports the Confederacy and he thinks that the history is being lied about. I don't know the history. All I'm saying is the last thing we should do is tear down statues, and Trump was trying to explain that. So Chuck Schumer gets in front of AIPAC and basically throws Trump under the bus and says, you know, when someone looks at a neo-Nazi rally and sees some very fine people among its company, we must call it out. Scott Adams called for Chuck Schumer to resign, although that's not going to happen. And I think the condemning thing is kind of cringy. It's like, condemn them, they need to resign, Let's be real. No one's resigning, although probably Ralph Northam should resign out of anybody. And here's the thing, I've been taking a lot of heat from both sides. When I talk about AIPAC, it's really messy for me because I have people who support me who are very critical of Israel and they're anti-Zionists under their own title. And they say, Anomaly, you don't go hard at Israel enough, you're too soft, or this or that. They hate on me from the anti-Israel side. And then I have people who are Jewish or support Israel who say, Anomaly, you're anti-Semitic, you can't talk about it, you're horrible, you need to call out CAIR, which I have in multiple live streams. So I hate talking about this stuff, although it does intrigue me, to be honest. I get hated on by both sides because I'm not enough of anything for people to get mad. But here's what I do know about AIPAC, and I've been talking about it because no conservatives do. It's the only place that it seems like the right wing and the left wing come together and stand for a common goal. It's like you can't get Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, Kevin McCarthy of the Republican side, and Mitch McConnell to go to any conferences and agree on things. But for some reason, AIPAC is the one thing that the top Democrats and top Republicans go to. And it is a little bit suspect, I'm not going to lie. I don't care that Chuck Schumer is Israeli. I don't care that he's Jewish. I don't care if he's a dual citizen. I'm not sure if he is, but he probably is. That doesn't bother me. What bothers me is he clearly doesn't do anything for America. I don't care if he's Jewish. I don't care if he's Muslim. I don't care if he's white, black, yellow, orange, green, blue. I care what he does. And he's constantly gone against the president in a horrible light. He's constantly critiqued the president for stuff he did 6-7 years ago, such as immigration. You know, he says, Trump is such a horrible person because of his immigration. It's like, dude, he's reading your immigration policies from 10 years ago. He sounds exactly like Chuck Schumer before Trump. So it's like, I don't know if you're shilling for Israel, as they'd say. I don't know if it's you're just not a good politician. I don't know what it is. I'm not going to blame anything, but it's like the victim card thing is a little bit annoying. And I'm suspect of any dual citizen who doesn't love the country, or it's like, it doesn't really matter to me. But the fact that conservatives say that you can't talk about AIPAC, like I'm being called anti-Semitic, and I'm like, they're like, call out CAIR, like in Muslim Brotherhood. I was like, I do. The reason I talk about this more is because no one else does. There's 10 million conservatives saying that stuff. It's all, I'm not a basic bit, as they'd say. So it's like, I want to talk about something else. But also, it's worth noting, like I talk about China's influence in our media. I talk about China's influence in our entertainment industry. I talk about how China hacked us. I talk about how Saudi Arabia is influenced. I talk about everything. So the fact that conservatives and some Jewish people, not all, honestly, a lot of Jewish people love it, but some try to pressure me and say, Anomaly, you're not allowed to talk about AIPAC. Sorry, that's not going to happen. And then I get it from the other side. The anti-Zionists say, Anomaly, you have too many Zionist friends. Yeah, I have a lot of Jewish friends. I have a lot of friends who consider themselves Zionists. I have friends that are pro-Palestine. I don't judge somebody or become friends with somebody based on their policy over a country I've never been to and a very confusing history of a battle that's been going on for God knows how long that I have no idea what's truly going on. I'll tell you what I do know about Israel. I know that there's a lot of media that hates Israel. And if Hamas shoots in rockets and then Israel retaliates, a lot of times they won't cover Hamas shooting rockets and they'll just blame Israel. I think there's a lot of leftist media that doesn't want to tell the true story. I also think there's a lot of conservatives who don't want to hear the other side of the story and they don't want to, have a discussion about it, and they call everything anti-Semitic, like even Ben Shapiro. It's like you can't even say Netanyahu without them saying it's anti-Semitic. Then you have people, the media called Netanyahu's son anti-Semitic, who's literally Israeli. It's like, guys, when you call everything racist, it's not good. When you call everything sexist or Islamophobic, the word Islamophobic doesn't even make sense. Just because people hate or criticize Islam, which you can criticize, that's great. Hating, not a good idea in my opinion, but it doesn't mean you're afraid of Islam. Like any criticism of Islam is now Islamophobia. You must be afraid because you critique it. That's not true. Just like any critique of Catholicism, if they're raping little kids, it doesn't mean you're anti-Catholic or anti-Christian. It means you have criticism of the religion or people in it. It's no different from Judaism, folks. I'm sorry if people don't want to hear that. And if Chuck Schumer is not a good politician, he can't hide behind the victim card and say, Trump's a neo-Nazi and any criticism of me must be that. And it's like, no, dude, you're not a good politician. I'm not quite sure why. There's a lot of people that aren't good. And it's worth diving into. If you could dive into every religion, why not dive into that one? And I just want to say as well, I was talking to someone and they were like, they're like, Anomaly, you're anti-Semitic. I was like, that's not true. And they're like, it's so simple, Anomaly. It's a religion and a race, but Jussie Smollett's not Jewish because his father was Jewish. So I was like, you're yelling at me acting like it's so simple figuring out what Judaism is. I'm genuinely curious. I have no idea, no hate in my heart for it, but it's not normal to be ethnic. If my father's 100% something, in any other ethnicity, that would mean you're 50%. But in Judaism, that means 0%. It's an ethnicity according to some people. It's a race. It's a religion. It's the Talmud. It's the Torah. I have no idea what you guys are doing. I don't really care. I'm a little bit interested, but it's like, don't call me anti-Semitic or a Zionist. I'm not a Zionist. I'm not anti-Semitic. I can't stand talking about this stuff because both sides yell at me because I won't completely jump down their rabbit hole and just scream and do absolutely nothing. But it is interesting that, the one conference where everybody can get along and support something seems to be Israel. And I wouldn't care about it if we had a wall. I wouldn't care about it if our country was together and it seemed like we actually had politicians who cared about us. But we have politicians of every race, religion, ethnicity, and gender who seems like most of Congress seems like they want nothing to do with basic American values and standing up for our country. So I'm open to criticism, critique, and finding out why. But I don't like people hiding behind victim cards and saying you can't possibly talk about anything I'm doing. And everybody seems to be doing it, from Chuck Schumer to Ben Shapiro to conservatives to certain Islamic leaders to this, that, and the other. It's like, it's so annoying to me. And before I move on, the reason I go hard at it is because I truly believe that being a good person and being a cool person makes people less racist, sexist, anti-Islamophobic, xenophobic. Imam Tawhidi makes people less Islamophobic because he's a Muslim who calls out his own people and says the truth. People like Roseanne, I believe, make people less anti-Semitic because she's cool and she calls out stuff. People like Chuck Schumer, who hide behind the victim card, and even Ben Shapiro, who literally will say the word Islam, he'll say anti-Semitic for everything under the sun. I've seen him like 5 times say it when it clearly wasn't anti-Semitic. It does no service to real anti-Semitism. It builds anti-Semitism. It stops intelligent discussion, which is what they claim that they want to do. And it actually does the opposite of like eases tensions. I think being a great person and telling the truth and being able to facilitate discussion like my Jewish friend Andrew Mayer is the way to go. That's my personal perspective. So I'm just going to say, regardless of anything, I get pressure from all sides, left, right, up, down, this, that, the other. I'm not going to back down. I'm not going to stop talking about stuff. I'm not going to stop having conversations, because when I talk about it, it doesn't come from a place of hate. It doesn't come from a place of judgment. There's not a single time where I condemned all group. I actually condemn others who blame all people of one race or one religion. I say that's not the way to go on all sides. I know too many great people of every background to understand that it's not a tribal issue, although there are certain ideologies in all spectrums, whether it be politically, religiously, or racially, that are inherently not great for our country or the world. And I'm open for discussion, but I'm not going to stop talking about it. And I refuse to be falsely labeled, although you could say everything under the sun to me. It is what it is. But that's the story. Chuck Schumer bashes Trump at AIPAC, and, was basically trying to align him with neo-Nazis, which is just not cool, whichever way you spin it. The fifth and final story of the day, and just if you joined, guys, I'm not naked.